Welcome to this special series produced together with our friends at the Folklore Podcast. We will be playing The Shivering Circle and the adventure The Austringer. Our Gamemaster is the creator of The Shivering Circle, Howard David Ingham. Now sit back and enjoy some chilling folk horror.
You have been working on the current episodes of Eric Higginson's World of the Strange for the last week or so. You're in the town of Hoddesford at the moment, which is in Dorset, obviously, and yeah, it's been particularly difficult. You arrived yesterday and arrived at the bed and breakfast, the Glory Inn. It's got fake timbers on the outside and lots of rustic detailing dating to, 1997 on the inner walls. No one was there when you picked up the keys to your room yesterday, and evidently someone's in residence because there was some fresh toast, cereal, orange juice, a tray of croissants and pan au chocolat. Steve ate most of those, a pot of filtered coffee and several pots of tea. And when you went back to get some stuff at lunchtime today, the teapots and mugs in your rooms had been changed, but you haven't seen anyone. In fact, the town's been really quiet. You're currently doing a drive around, the four of you in the car, scouting it out. Your host for the programme, which will be on UK history at some point in the next few months, is of course the celebrity sidekick Eric Higginson. He's not here yet. He arrives on Monday, and when we start filming, and it's Thursday, so you've got a few days in order to work out exactly what you're going to do, scout out the locations, find out things that Mr. Higginson can talk about in his things. Eric Higginson, of course, is very famous for doing his celebrity seance, also on UK history, which recently has become known for, accurate history, really. He's known by the crew, but never to his face, as Mr. Whippy because of his hair, which looks a bit like an ice cream. He is the worst diva imaginable. You will be expected to handle him and manage him. You are not looking forward, and it's fine he's not arriving until filming starts on Monday, because that means you can actually get some work done. So today the drizzle is constant. It's the middle of June, but the drizzle is that sort of constant, miserable, slow, almost imperceptible rain that comes from a sky that's just a flawless grey sheet above you, and which seeps through the seams of your clothes and sort of almost feels kind of like a cold sweat. It's just everywhere. It's just miserable. It's miserable and it's depressing. And you are currently on a drive between the town of Hoddesford and the Shivering Circle of Hoddessham Down, when you're going past a hill. You can see trees that, even though it's supposedly summer, just look like black skeletons against the featureless grey sky. And there's a thud against the front of your car. Who's driving?
I would say that probably Gareth is driving as the runner.
All right, yeah. So I'm driving.
Yeah, there's been a thud against the front of your car.
Oh, shit, what was that? I look in the mirror, the rear view mirror. Was it something? Do I see something on the road?
You can't see anything.
Oh.
Pull over, Gareth. Pull over and we'll have a look.
All right. I'm just not... Okay, and I start pulling over to the side, feeling miserable, absolutely miserable in this weather. Oh, what is this then? And I open the door and I just look out. Do I see anything on the road?
something falls to the ground in front of the car with a kind of slapping noise.
It's probably just a sheep or something. Don't worry about it.
Just a sheep?
Well, you're out round the front of the car. It's a bird. A large bird.
Oh no.
A hawk, in fact.
I go out and I look at it from a distance at first because it's obviously a bird of prey. Is it alive? Does it move?
Oh no, it's dead. It hit the front of your car, and it sort of, as the car's going along at 40 miles an hour, it basically stayed on the front of your car, and when the car stopped, then it fell off.
I killed a hawk, guys.
There's a ring. There's a ring around its leg as well.
Oh no! I should take this to someone. I don't know.
Can't you just leave it by the road and then call someone to pick it up? No need for us to bring it into the car.
No, I agree. Look, have a look at that ring on its leg. See if it's got any contact details or anything on it.
And I kneel down there, and there's sort of mud on the side of the road, and I try to get a hold of this. I'm shaking slightly.
It's covered in blood. It's mangled. It really whacked into the car.
Oh.
The ring is just a sort of brass ring. It looks very, very old.
Does it say anything on it? Does it have any markings, any words?
No. It's just it's sort of green around the edges. It's that old. It's sort of.
Wow. Well, I can't get it off its leg, can I?
No, you can't.
No, just leave it, Gareth. 'Tis probably just an old bird that had been tagged a few years ago. Probably belonged to one of the locals, but had been put wild since then. I mean, it wasn't your fault. There wasn't anything we could do about it.
Yeah.
What are the rest of you doing? Obviously, Steve is telling Gareth to leave it. What about Lucy and Penny?
Lucy is fiddling with the bracelet that she wears on her wrist. It's got 10 black beads on a sort of worn leather band. And every time something happens, she just plays with them for a bit and then she counts them very carefully 3 times before she can say anything.
You had a cup of tea just before going out, didn't you, Lucy?
Yes, I did.
You've been out for a while. You've been out here for a while. It's weighing heavily on you.
Is there anywhere nearby that I could,
No.
a bush?
No. It's really, really exposed here. You're up at the top of the hill, and in fact, actually, as you're looking around, you can see against like the skeletal trees for a minute what looks like. It looks like was there someone up there, standing up there in the with a hat or something, or was it just it was probably just a bush or something. Or something, or sheep or something. I don't know. Something. There might have been someone up there. Who knows?
I turn and have a look out of the car window as best I can because of all the rain hitting it, and I sort of squint into the distance while I'm still playing with my beads. I just feel really, really uncomfortable at the moment, and I think I'm just going to agree with Steve and just say, look, I think we just ought to leave it. And let's just go on.
I give a little shiver as I stand out there in the rain. I mean, I still got some kind of raincoat on. It protects me somewhat, but it feels like it's just... this wetness is everywhere. And I let go of the leg that I've been holding, and I rub my hands together, and I start hurrying back into the driver's seat again.
Oh, Gareth, wait. You should probably wipe your hands more properly before you... you never know where that bird has been.
And I say, yeah. And I start coughing a bit, as I am wont to do, being a bit asthmatic and all. So I pull out my inhalator, and I have a suck on that. And then I grab some of the papers, the napkins that you had there. Or do you hand them over to me?
Yeah, I was gonna rummage for the wet napkins, and I hand you a couple of them.
Cheers, Penny, cheers. All right.
No worries.
As you go a bit in the car and start the car up, a magpie lands on the side of the road and starts picking at the corpse of the hawk.
I guess the tables have turned, huh?
Gareth, this shouldn't bother you, Gareth. However, Steve, what are you afraid of, Steve?
Steve is not a big fan of your magpie, so he hurriedly returns to the car and just gets back.
Is this a super... Well, the magpie's not there now. It's weird. You didn't see it flying away or anything. It just sort of appeared almost.
Steve, as he gets to the car door and goes to sit down, he looks again and does a kind of double take at the corpse of the hawk, and he's about to say, "Did any of..." and then he just stops and thinks better of it and just gets in the car and shuts the door.
Lucy sees where he's looking and kind of looks around to see what he was looking at, doesn't see anything, so just shrugs and carries on looking in the direction of where she thought she might have seen something. But there's nothing there.
Anyway, you've got to get to the Shivering Circle before the light gets bad. I mean, it's about 50. It's not that far, so you should be fine. And it is supposedly midsummer, so you should be all right. But you should get there. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, and you want to finish and just have a rest this evening, really. The drive is fairly uneventful, and you arrive at the Shivering Circle of Heuschober Down. Now, as stone circles go, it's fairly modest. There are 12 stones in a ring, and none of them are more than about 5 feet tall. And there's a smaller, flatter stone in the middle by way of a table. It's in a clearing on a wooded hilltop. It's about 2 miles from Hoddesford and about 2 miles from the Hoddesdon estate, which is the very working class, slightly deprived area from here. There's almost kind of an equilateral triangle. Here's an interesting fact, because obviously you guys have been looking up interesting facts, right? No historical document anywhere mentions the Shivering Circle of Heuschober Down before the witch trial of Margaret Rose in 1601. So how old is it? I mean, Iolo Morganwg, he invented the modern druid, pretty much. He decided and invented Eisteddfods and Welsh culture and stuff, and he was looking for survivals of paganism in Britain. In the 18th century, he assumed it was an ancient and druidic and wrote that in his writings, but then he used to say that all the time. They're not very, they're not hugely impressive. I mean, you're at the edge of the circle. I mean, well, you've got to... Who's in charge of cameras here?
That would be me.
Right, so what are you doing at this point?
Oh, I'm sitting. I've been sitting in the car with my camera bag on my lap. So as we have been getting closer to the Shivering Circles, I've been starting to, go over the equipment to make sure they're properly charged and everything looking like it should. So I'm probably sitting with one of the cameras up and kind of aiming it towards the Shivering Circle through the window.
Yes. Are you going to get out and try and test the light and everything and try and sort out shots and things you can make?
Yeah, as soon as everyone else starts, leaving the car, I will.
I'm going to get out of the car and start having a little wander around and sort of look for places that would frame Whippy nicely, and the sort of thing that he would like to be kind of seen, sort of sweeping landscapes and all that sort of malarkey.
Yeah.
Anything that makes him look good, and kind of check which direction the sun's coming from so I can position him so the sun gets his good side, all that sort of stuff. And just basically see if there's sort of anything even remotely interesting kind of landmark-wise, apart from the stones themselves, that we might be able to bring in to the background of a shot and then link to later in the show.
Okay, good. And so you walk up the little hill, and as you walk inside the range of the Shivering Circle, it's like a chill goes down your spine. It's really cold. Like really cold.
I shiver quite violently because it hits me, even with the rain, it wasn't actually that cold, but this hits me really quite strongly, and so I sort of stop for a second and consider it, Then take a step back outside the circle again.
And it's not as cold.
And so I'm going to do that 2 or 3 times. I don't care if I look like a crazy woman. I'm going to do that 2 or 3 times because I thought I must have imagined it.
Steve has been hanging back a bit because he's been trying to gauge what the general atmospheric background noise of the place is. So he's hung back a little bit from the party just to get an idea of, you know, what's going to be good for sound, what's going to cause a problem. And he sees this happening and says, "You all right? You look like a bit of a crazy woman. What are you doing?"
Come up here and see what you think of this. I thought it was just my imagination, but when you step inside the ring of stones, I don't know, it feels a lot, and I'm not talking just it's a bit chilly. This is a lot colder in here. Come, you do it as well and see what you think. Just stand outside.
Right.
Now take 2 steps in, so you go past the stones, and then tell me what you think.
And Steve does that.
And this is, of course, why it's called the Shivering Circle. This is why you're doing the segment on Eric Higginson's World of the Strange, because this phenomenon cannot be detected on scientific instruments, and yet everyone feels really cold.
I'm a bit away. I'm setting up a sort of outdoors sort of tent sort of thing where we could have food and whatever equipment we need to keep out of the rain. And I see them doing this little do-si-do over there by the circle, and I yell over to them, "Is it true then? Is it actually colder?"
Amazingly, yeah. I think I'm going to have to backtrack on quite a few of the things I thought about this place, because it is definitely a lot colder. Isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, you don't reckon it's just like some kind of crosswind or something coming from over there?
It is a very high place.
I wipe a bit of rain out of my face and I try to put some of these things together. But I cannot let it go because I'm too curious now, so I'm going to go over there as myself as well to sort of experience this.
Oh, Garrett, dear, I would like some help with the bags here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. Do you want me to put them in the tent? Just getting things up?
If you can grab the big one, and I'll bring these 2 ones.
So I stop just outside the circle as Penny calls for me, so I don't actually go into it, and I take the bags and I start hurrying them over to where I'm setting up the tent.
Yeah, Steve, there's no wind.
Well, it was only an idea.
I honestly thought people were exaggerating, but it's a lot colder, isn't it? That's really fascinating.
'Tis cold, I'll give you that. 'Tis cold. It's a bit odd, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually.
I tell you what, though, it's not hard for you to actually figure out levels. It's a piece of cake, because weirdly, although it's kind of high up and exposed, it's somewhat quieter than a lot of outdoor locations that you've done sound recording at. It is quite a bit quieter, actually. It oddly quiet, actually.
Is it unnaturally quiet?
Well, what's unnaturally quiet, really? I mean, a lot of these things, in your experience, are due to perceptions as much as anything, aren't they?
Is there any bird or animal life that can be heard, for example? The distant sound of a car or some other piece of transportation? Inside
the circle, you can't hear anything, and then you move a bit further out towards the edge of the hill. The hill's precipitously steep on one side and quite gentle on the other, and you go to the steep side, and yeah, actually you can hear some hills and stuff, and you can see in the distance the Hoddesdon estates and a bunch of teenagers who should be at school sort of hanging around towards the bottom of the hill. There's actually a bunch of teenagers, like 3 teenagers sort of sitting at the bottom of the steep side of the hill, smoking fags and looking kind of I don't know, ne'er do well. Actually, they're not far from you.
And can I hear them from outside of the circle?
Yeah, you can't hear any specific words or anything, but yeah, you can hear them. They're talking. They're just loitering, as teenagers do.
And can I hear them then from inside of the circle?
No, but then that's a bit further towards the middle of the dome of the hill. So it's not... You can't, no, but it's not entirely out of the question, if that makes sense.
I've been rummaging around in one of the bags that Gareth helped me put on under the little tent.
Okay.
And I hand him one of these infrared camera thingies that you can actually check temperature with.
All right.
Yeah. I give it to Gareth and oh, come on, love, let's go see what
this
we
is
can
cool.
see then.
You brought one of these infrared thingies. And I fold up an umbrella to be able to cover you and the instruments and stuff, sort of following you around when you're carrying the camera.
We are here to check the temperature, so I thought it would be handy.
Yeah, it's just a cool way of doing it, so. And I sort of try and hold up the umbrella with one hand and see if I can activate this thing and look at the circle.
All right, well, yeah, you got it activated, and as far as you can make out, it's no different. The temperature's the same in there and out there.
I can't really see any difference here, Penny. What if you go in, you go in and see if you get colder?
Okay, of course.
And I sort of look at her. It's a bit fidgety, sort of having to hold the umbrella, trying to cover her at the same time as I'm holding the camera outside of the circle. Probably looks really stupid, but we're getting a bit engaged into this now. It's quite fun.
I'm not quite as excited as Gareth is with this whole project, but I kind of walk slowly into the circle to see if I can feel any difference. I'm kind of skeptical, actually, but, well, we'll see.
Okay, we're going to fade out that scene now, and because little more of an event happens, and we're going to find ourselves back in the village of Heuschober, where you're staying. Now, there was some question of you visiting the museum, possibly, or there are other things that you could do. It's up to you, really. Lucy, are you going to... Because obviously you're really dying for a wee now. So are you going to go back to the bed and breakfast, which is the other side of the village, or are you just going to hang on for the museum and go to the museum toilets?
I think I will just hang on for the museum, whichever is the closest by this point. So the others will probably notice that my playing with my beads is kind of getting slightly more rapid now. It's usually relatively measured, unless I'm really stressed, but yeah, I'm kind of plucking at them a little more than I probably usually would.
An old lady at the desk of the museum views you with a gimlet eye and sort of says, "Good afternoon. How can I help you?"
And Lucy freezes for a second and just kind of grips the bracelet on her wrist just for a moment. Then she takes a deep breath and says, "Hi, I take it you're open today and I can come and look around, is that okay?"
Certainly. What brings you to this part of Worcestershire?
Oh, I work for a production company and we're doing some filming up at the Shivering Circle.
Oh, really? Oh, really? We've got some information about that. There's some stuff about the witch trial over there.
Oh,
and,
Margaret Rose.
Yeah, Peggy Rose, the last child to be hung for witchcraft in England in 1601.
Oh, that's fantastic, because I've been reading up about that and I'd love to see some artefacts. That would be really useful. And also, can I just ask, is there a toilet here that I could use, please?
Oh, yes, it's just round the corner.
Oh, thank you very much. And not just genuinely because she needs to use it, but also to end the kind of social interaction thing, Lucy almost turns and runs in the direction of this toilet.
Right. I assume the rest of you are looking around the museum?
Yeah, look around. Is there a cafe in the museum, or is it just a museum?
It's just a museum. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about a village museum. It's not
Yeah.
really been renovated in the way that a lot of Hoddesford has been kind of gentrified over the years, but the museum is still quite an old school village museum. A lot of it is quite dusty. There are some 19th century mezzotint engravings of the Shivering Circle. It hasn't changed a whole lot. Oh, here's an interesting one. There's a photograph from 1920 of a tall, very rare, very sort of raw-boned old man in a threadbare black tweed and a tall battered hat with a hawk, and the caption, Mr. Baker, a local Austringer. Presumably you know what an Austringer is, right?
Is it someone who hunts with the hawk, or?
It's someone who hunts with a hawk, as opposed to a falconer who hunts with a falcon.
Oh.
A hawk is a poor man's bird. An Austringer is a bird hunter who is therefore poor. Is class-based in Britain.
Yeah.
As it always is. Not just, not just in this part of Devon or in like other areas in England, but in Britain generally. Even the animal you hunted with was a sign of what class you were.
I start coughing a bit, and I pull out my inhalator again, and I look at this picture for a while.
And he's got he's a hawk, and he's and it's got that sort of it's about 9 inches tall. This picture is foolscap sized, and it's difficult to see details, but he's got this sort of his eyes seem to be watching you from this photograph. It's the damnedest thing.
And I see Steve is standing there next to me. So, look at this. He's an Austringer. He's got the hawk and everything. Isn't that weird, though?
It's a bit of a coincidence, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Steve, the first, as presumably, Steve, you're an enthusiast for British television, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. The last time you heard the word Austringer was in an old BBC play for today that sadly no longer exists. Is an interesting one. It's one of those great missing episodes that people look for weirdly. But yeah, so it's an unusual word. Other things you find, like I said, mezzotint engravings of the Shivering Circle, engravings and pictures of Hoddesdon Grange as well. Hoddesdon Grange, the old stately home, which has fallen out of use. It's largely uninhabited, although you heard that there were some people doing some research up there of some reason. There's a knife which supposedly belongs to one of the coven. The paw of an animal, a dried paw of an animal, which was also supposed to belong to the witches of 1601, and a child's finger bone. The finger bone of Peggy Rose, the 9-year-old girl who was apparently at the centre of the coven, who were hung in 1601.
Steve is taking a look at the mezzotints of the circle and turns around and says to the others there as they're wandering around, these are quite nice old mezzotints. I wonder if we went away and came back later on today, whether they would have changed and there wouldn't be a little creature or something in the bottom of them. And he laughs at his own really poor M.R. James related gag.
Yeah. I think I should probably, and I just go over to the receptionist, because I realise that maybe I should report this to someone about the hawk now that I see this photo. If there is someone still using them for hunting or whatever, then I don't know, maybe that was what he said, an escaped thing that I should let someone know about. So I go over to her and I say, excuse me.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Sorry, can I help you, dearie?
Yeah, you see, on the way here, I had a bit of an roadkill. there was a hawk. I didn't see it. Must have swooped down somehow, and it had a ring on its leg. So looked really old. I was thinking that maybe it belonged to someone here. Didn't want,
I wouldn't have a clue, dearie. You might want to go talk to the local vet about that. She might know.
Oh, there's a vet.
She's an outsider though. So yeah, the vet's practice is just the other end of the main street, the high street.
Did I see as?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry.
All right. What's her name?
Do you know? I don't rightly know. She ain't been here that long.
Right.
She's not the old fella. She's not the old fella, Mr. Chinnery. Oh, I did like Mr. Chinnery. Lucy, as you're washing your hands and drying your hands, you come out of the toilet and you're confronted almost immediately. You come out of the toilet by a very small, contained, very stern-looking woman. Everyone's so stern-looking around here, who basically just confronts you and blocks your way in. It doesn't seem to be deliberately impolite, but she sort of says, "Excuse me, are you the television people? Did I hear that you were the television people?"
Are we actually in the bathroom at this point, or is it back in the corridor?
No, you just come out of the bathroom into the corridor and immediately confronted by this woman. And to the extent you know where you can go, you're basically cornered.
Okay, I've still got my hand on the door because I'm literally standing kind of under the door frame. So I'll sort of shrink back a little tiny bit. And,
Well, are you?
Yes, we are. Can I help you in some way?
Well, it's an odd thing, really. My late husband Bernard used to work for the BBC, and he passed not long ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, he was a brute, and it was the alcohol that did for him. I'm not really particularly upset. He left behind certain things in our home, and we wondered if you, as television people, might actually be interested in the things that he had left, because I've got no use for them whatsoever. I have no clue if they're even worth anything. Mostly old film canisters and such things.
Oh, right. Yes, I'm quite happy to come and have a look at them. We can certainly see what they are, whether they'd be valuable, whether you'd be worth you selling them on eBay or something like that. Yeah, we could do that.
Oh, by all means. I'm in number 25, the High Street.
25, the High Street. Okay, what was your name? I'm Lucy.
I am Erica Newman.
Erica. It's lovely to meet you, Erica.
Mrs. Newman.
Mrs. Newman. Apologies.
And you are?
I'm Lucy Webb.
And who do you work for here? Who is in charge of this group that you're with?
Well, I'm the director, so I'm in charge of what.
Oh, really?
Yes, I am.
Oh, how modern. Right. She leaves you to it. I'll see you in my home in about half an hour.
Lucy automatically glances at her phone to check what time it is, and finds herself going, yes, that's absolutely fine. And then as she decides to sort of just take a step back and let the bathroom door close between her and Mrs. Newman. And she just goes back to the sink and kind of leans on it for a second, and then takes some cold water and splashes it into her face. And takes a few deep breaths and counts her beads a couple of times. And then she's ready to go back out and see what the others have found out.
Yes. It's so long since you guys any of you have been to Cornwall, if at all, and it's kind of a strange sort of experience, really, isn't it?
When Lucy arrives back, Steve turns around and says to her, "Do you reckon they don't teach geography round here?"
Why? What do you mean?
Well, when we came in, that lady on reception, she said, "What brings you to Worcestershire?" I don't remember Dorset being in Worcestershire. And then I was looking at this here picture of Odisham Grange, look, on the wall.
Yeah.
and 'tis labelled Odisham Grange, Devonshire.
So it is.
So when was Dorset in Devonshire either?
You've always been in Devon. It's always been Devon. You can look at Google Maps if you like doubting that.
I was going to say, when I looked it up, it definitely said Devon.
So why did that woman on reception say, what brings you to Worcestershire? Did you take a wrong turning, Gareth, when you was driving up here or something?
I think we'd have noticed.
Are you sure she said Worcestershire? She probably said Devon, you know.
I can't remember what she said now.
I'm fairly certain she said Worcestershire, you know.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Worcestershire, but I'm not sure now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she did.
She did? Yeah, she did, didn't she?
She did.
Oh, no, you were wrong. You were wrong, actually, because you've still got your phone open, and now it says you're in Worcestershire. And I mean, you know, the medicine tin says Worcestershire too.
I look down and I get a bit confused. I just feel like my head is spinning a little.
Anyway, Lucy has just made an appointment for you all. Would you like to explain that, Lucy?
Yeah. There was a woman who basically just accosted me in the hall outside the toilet. Apparently her husband used to work for the Beeb, but he's passed on. Don't do any of the sort of sympathy thing, because I really don't think she gives a shit about him from what she said. But she's got some stuff that I think she's looking to sell it. She said there's something about old film canisters, and that just made me interested, because if he worked for the Beeb and he lived around here, maybe there might be something interesting we could use as a segment in the show.
That could be cool. I mean, not that I know, but I could see that.
Yeah, but do we have equipment to really, look what's on them?
Well, she might have stuff. She said she's got lots of stuff at the house and she doesn't know if it's worth anything. She's probably expecting us to pay for it, so we'll deal with that.
Oh,
as and when it happens.
'Tis worth having a look, because we can always take it back to base and have a look at it. And Steve's ears have kind of pricked up at this point, because he is a fan of old TV programmes and obviously is still looking for those elusive missing Doctor Who episodes and so on. So every time something like this comes up, he's like, oh, well, we could just at least have a look at the labels and see what they say.
I thought you'd say that.
Don't see any harm in actually giving it a look, so there might be really interesting stuff there. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you need me? Can I drop you off there? Because I was going to go to the vet and just report the hawk thing. She said
it's all on the same street.
Yeah, if I drop them off, I can just go down there.
Yeah, I mean, you literally don't even have to drive. It's like 200 yards one way and 300 yards the other, right? This isn't a big place.
I'll tell you what then, Gareth. Why don't you pop down to the vets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do what you feel is the right thing to do. We'll go and see Mrs. Woman up the road there, and then why don't we meet up in that little cafe that we saw opposite when we got here?
All right. If you need me, just give me a ding. All right. Otherwise, I'll just go there.
Okay, we'll do Mrs. Newman's house first. So you arrive at Mrs. Newman's house. It's a cottage. It's slightly back from the rest of the high street. It's very nice. You knock at the door. She arrives at the door. She says, "Oh, the television people. Right, you're on time. Right on time. Right." She doesn't let you in the house. She goes round, takes you around the side of the house to the garage. So you go in the side entrance to the garage and into the dusty side of the garage. It smells. No car has been kept here for a very long time.
So on the way over, I would have told both Penny and Steve, her name is Erica Newman, but for God's sake, call her Mrs. Newman at all times. Okay?
Yes, why wouldn't we?
Well, I made the mistake of introducing myself as Lucy and I called her Erica, and then I really wished I hadn't.
Oh, okay. She's one of the old people.
Yeah.
She is of an indeterminate age. She has one of those faces that doesn't seem to sort of move. It's all angles and corners. Even her hair, which is sort of dead straight, and sits straight down at her chin.
When they get into the garage, Steve turns around and says to her, "So let's see what you got then, Mrs. Neumann."
Mrs. Newman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Newman.
She motions towards one of the shadow-wreathed corners of this garage. There are several piles of film canisters, and also several of those industrial cardboard boxes that have like the metal corners on. You know, like really heavy-duty storage boxes of a very old kind. Like 3 boxes in a stack. So, what are you going to do? She says, please feel free to have a look around. I'll just be in the house. And she leaves you to it.
This is amazing. I mean, let's open and see.
Yeah.
It could be lights, or it could be, maybe it's an old camera.
Let's just hope it's not Mr. Newman.
Oh.
Well, the first can at the top of the stack. Who's looking at the cans? Who's first to the cans? Is it you, Steve?
I think it probably would be, yes.
The first can at the top of the stack says Doctor Who, Epi 6, Power of the Daleks.
Steve just stands and stares at the box for a moment.
The can beneath, are you looking at the next can, or are you just staring?
No, he's just holding the canister in front of him and staring at the label and rereading it a few times.
Lucy looks up, sort of glancing over at him, and sees this sort of glazed expression, sort of waves a hand in front of his face. Steve, you alright?
Power of the Daleks.
I'm sorry, what?
Missing Doctor Who episodes.
You're kidding.
Well, that's what it says on the label, isn't it?
Really?
These are film canisters. Underneath this is the Scott Walker television programme. Underneath that is Dad's Army, The Loneliness of the Long Distance Walker. Underneath that, Hancock's Half Hour, the horror serial. Beneath that, Doomwatch, Time Code. Beneath that, Doctor Who, The Faceless Ones. Beneath that, Doctor Who, The Highlanders, Episode 4. Another Doctor Who episode. More episodes, Doctor Who, The Abominable Snowmen. Adam Adamant Lives, 3 episodes in a row. And The Austringer, the lost play for today from 1969.
Steve goes through all of these in turn and then turns around and says to the other two, all this just don't really make sense, does it?
What makes sense?
Why would one person coincidentally have all of these missing episodes?
Didn't Lucy say he was a bit of an arse? Maybe he stole them?
It was more kind of the drink and being a bit of a brute, according to Mrs. Newman, but what's to say that he wasn't like that? It does seem a bit of a strange coincidence that everything that people have been looking for decades is right here in this one box, doesn't it?
Actually, the boxes. You've looked at the stack of film cans. You haven't looked at the boxes yet.
I've been struggling with one of the boxes trying to get it open.
Right, you did finally get it open. It's full of VHS cassettes.
Does anyone even own one of these anymore?
The VHS cassettes have written on the side names and titles that coincide with what's on the film canisters.
Are there multiple copies of these, or just one copy of each one?
There's one copy of each one. It's almost as if he knew what he was collecting and kept them for his own personal viewing and kept the video copy of his own. It's like all the rumours about people who have been hoarding lost episodes in order to watch for themselves so other people can't have them. All of those rumours appear to have been collected in this one garage.
Maybe he was part of some kind of network or something?
Possibly.
Well, yeah, I mean, he could have made a fortune out of these on the black market.
Who's to
Or
say
he could just be one of those bastards that keeps them for himself.
Probably option B, I would have said.
Point is, he's no longer here. She evidently don't know what this is. So what do we do about it?
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Role-Playing, where we played the Austringer for the folk horror game The Shivering Circle. Our Gamemaster was Howard David Ingham, and we were again joined by Mark and Tracey Norman from the Folklore Podcast, as well as our dear friend Jenny Bremberg. The music was created by Kai Engel and used under a Creative Commons license from freemusicarchive.org. Production and editing was done by the Folklore Podcast. Check them out to learn more about the horrors that hide in the tales of old. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, and Julia, for their generous support. And we would of course like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get early access to bonus campaigns for Cult of Vanilla Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and see you soon again.